This video is sponsored by Raycon. By late August 1943, the German command faced mounting pressure to turn the tide in the Bay of Biscay. From bases in occupied France, a group of Dornier Do 217 bombers prepared for their mission. Waiting silently in their bomb bays was the Henschel Hs 293 radio-guided glide bomb. With its sleek, aircraft-shaped silhouette and 10-foot wingspan, this 1,100-pound explosive was the Luftwaffe's latest hope of changing the course of the war at sea. As the squadron thundered into the sky, its target, the first support group, patrolled the waters below. HMS Egret cruised in formation. The low hum of approaching bombers grew into a powerful roar. The Allied sailors rushed to their posts, unaware they were about to face a weapon unlike anything seen before in naval warfare, one that can be steered through the air with surgical precision, leaving them with nowhere to hide. The Henschel Hs 293 allowed operators to direct their attacks with an impressive level of accuracy, cutting through the chaos of battle to focus on their targets. When we are tracking history's technological turning points, the ability to focus is equally critical. Just as World War II engineers needed clear signals to guide their missiles through interference, we need pristine audio to navigate through seas of information. That's why we at Dark Seas rely on Raycon's everyday earbuds with active noise cancellation that can silence even the most intrusive background noise. They're our trusted companions when researching in crowded archives or focusing on historical accounts. They're sturdy, reliable, and priced at half the cost of other premium audio brands with the same capabilities. What impresses us most is their remarkable 32-hour battery life. When you're on a historical expedition that spans days, you need equipment that won't quit on you. And with multi-point connectivity, we can stay linked up to several devices at the same time, essential when cross-referencing sources about revolutionary weapon systems. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description box below, or go to buyraycon.com/darkseas to get 20% off Raycon's best-selling everyday earbuds, brought to you by Raycon. Something more. By 1939, Europe was once again the world's biggest battlefield. Though the Luftwaffe had proven its dominance in the early stages, as the war expanded toward the Atlantic, the ocean remained a bitterly contested frontier. Allied convoys crisscrossed the waves, carrying supplies that fueled the ever-growing resistance. Submarines prowled the depths, sinking merchant ships at an alarmingly growing rate. But even this success came with limitations. While the U-boat fleet drew most of the attention in German propaganda, the Luftwaffe also played a growing role in supporting naval operations through extensive maritime surveillance, armed reconnaissance missions, and targeted airstrikes on shipping. Tasked with breaking these convoys, the aircraft's conventional payloads and strategies were no match against the increasingly sophisticated Allied fleets. The Luftwaffe needed something sharper, faster, and above all, precise. Under immense pressure from the Reich Air Ministry, the Henschel development team, led by Professor Herbert Wagner and his engineers, worked to solve a singular problem: how to strike a moving target from a distance where shipboard anti-aircraft fire couldn't touch them. The answer came with a never-done-before idea: a guided bomb capable of being steered mid-flight. Basing their new design off of Gustav Schwarz's 1937 glide concept, by 1940 they had refined the idea, adding a liquid-fueled rocket to increase speed and range. First of its kind. The finished project, the Henschel Hs 293, was the world's first operational anti-shipping missile, a clever combination of components designed for precision and effectiveness. With its 10-foot wingspan and sleek airplane-shaped silhouette, at its core was a modified SC-500 bomb, a general-purpose 1,100-pound explosive commonly used by the Luftwaffe. Adapted specifically for maritime operations, the bomb featured a Kopfring, a metal ring fitted to the nose to increase the likelihood of a perpendicular impact, essential for maximizing damage to ship hulls. The casing was constructed from thin metal, prioritizing a high payload of explosive material over armor-piercing capability, making it particularly effective against lightly armored vessels. First tested in 1940, the Hs 293 was carried beneath the wings or in the bomb bay of an HE-111, HE-177, FW-200, or DO-217 aircraft. The attacking pilot approached the target at roughly 210 miles per hour, released the missile from an altitude of 3,000 to 5,000 feet, then veered 30 degrees to the left and reduced speed. Unlike earlier imprecise bombs, instead of being dropped and forgotten after release, a rocket motor burned for 10 crucial seconds, giving the HS-293 its initial momentum. The bomb's trajectory could then be entirely controlled via an FUG-203 state-of-the-art radio transmitter in the mothership, connected to a receiver within the HS-293. Adjustments could be made in any direction, up, down, left, or right, turning it into a guided missile, capable of responding to the smallest adjustments needed to find its mark. To track the bomb mid-flight, 5 brightly colored flares were mounted on the rear of the weapon, making it easily visible to the operator from a distance. For night missions with low light conditions, these were replaced with flashing lights. Once aligned with its target, the HS-293's controller would then steer it directly into the path of its enemy. Closing in, the rocket's momentum and precise guidance left little wiggle room for evasive action from the Allies. Following extensive testing that began in 1940, with controlled trials reaching nearly 90% success, the HS-293 underwent further refinement and was finally ready for operational deployment by 1943. The Summer of Henschel. In the summer of 1943, the Bay of Biscay, located off the western coast of France and northern Spain, was a passage for German U-boats traveling to and from their bases in occupied France. The area was a prime target for Allied forces seeking to disrupt submarine operations. Its proximity to vital shipping routes turned the bay into a theater of constant tension. By then, however, the campaign had taken a brutal toll on German submarines. Admiral Karl Dönitz, determined to fight back, ordered U-boats to remain on the surface and use their anti-aircraft guns against attacking Allied planes, rather than diving for safety. This bold strategy was quite costly, leading to a growing tally of lost German assets. In late August, the Allies escalated their response, deploying heavily armed support groups to patrol the waters alongside their aircraft. One of these was the 40th Escort Group, made up of the sloops HMS Landguard and HMS Biddeford, along with additional support from Royal Navy vessels. On August 25th, the late summer weather was swelteringly hot, with many men working on the decks of their ships having discarded their shirts. Out at the horizon, a squadron of Dornier Do 217 bombers emerged, engines droning as they closed in with precision. Armed with the Luftwaffe's newest weapon, the pilots released their payloads, and the missiles streaked toward the escort ships below. On the deck of HMS Landguard, the sailors froze as the first bombs began to hit the water nearby, shocked at the geysers of seawater erupting into the air. Moments later, HMS Biddeford took a direct hit. The crew scrambled as debris rained down. One sailor was immediately lost to the explosion, and the ship's hull violently groaned under the damage. Yet, against all odds, the HS-293 missile's explosive charge failed to fully detonate, sparing the ship from complete and utter devastation. While the attack was over in minutes, this was only the beginning. HMS Egret. Only 2 days later, the 40th Escort Group was relieved by the 1st Support Group, which included the sloop HMS Egret and several sister ships. But as the group began to settle into their latest patrol, sailors heard the unmistakable approach of enemy bombers. Sure enough, 18 Dornier Do 217s descended from the sky, breaking through the clouds, every one of them carrying the HS-293 guided missile. Upon spotting the incoming formation, the crew aboard Egret scrambled to their stations, their anti-aircraft guns blazing as they tried to fend off the attack, filling the ocean air with smoke. Royal Canadian Navy destroyer HMCS Athabaskan was the first to suffer, taking a violent hit that set fires raging all over her deck. As the crew fought to contain the flames and maintain control, the bombers repositioned their focus toward the sloop HMS Egret at the center of the formation. The state-of-the-art guided missiles dashed from the sky with precision toward her, despite the ship's frantic evasive maneuvers. One missile struck right into her, causing a blast so fierce it tore through Egret's hull with terrifying force. As the flames erupted through the wood and metal, the helpless crew members on deck were thrown from their posts, some falling into the restless waters below. Within moments, the vessel began to break apart, listing heavily as water surged into her. With the attack happening so suddenly, the men aboard had little chance to react, let alone escape. As HMS Egret sank beneath the waves, her crew disappeared with her, leaving only wreckage and silence in her place. Among the souls lost on that August 27th attack were 194 sailors and 4 RAF electronic specialists tasked with intercepting Luftwaffe communications. On the surviving ships, sailors and officers alike had no choice but to watch in stunned silence. Another ship, HMS Grenville, under the steady command of Roger Hill, was lucky enough to outmaneuver the remaining incoming missiles with sharp, calculated turns, narrowly escaping the fate of her sister ship. The loss of Egret marked the first time a guided missile sank a ship. As an immediate result, all anti-U-boat patrols in the Bay of Biscay were suspended until the Allies had time to rethink their strategies against this powerful weapon. Countermeasures. The HS-293 was used in battles like Anzio and Salerno, making even the most experienced Allied commanders shake in their boots. Early attempts at an Allied response were frustratingly ineffective, as devices aboard U.S. Navy and Royal Navy ships attempting to jam the radio link between the operator's transmitter and the missile's receiver operated on the wrong frequencies, despite many tries. In the meantime, the HS-293 continued to wreak havoc over the Mediterranean and beyond. On November 26, 1943, the troop transport HMT Rona sailed through the ocean as part of an Allied convoy, her decks crowded with over 2,000 personnel, when their day-to-day activities were interrupted by the sudden approach of Luftwaffe Dornier Do 217 bombers. While their anti-aircraft guns roared to life as soon as they spotted the formation, one missile broke through the barrage, streaking toward Rona and striking the starboard side with explosive force, tearing through the ship's hull and igniting a catastrophic fire. As water rushed in and flames consumed the deck, the Rona listed heavily, and within minutes, the vessel was sinking. Over 1,000 lives were lost in one of the biggest single attacks on Allied forces during the war. When the British engineers introduced the Type 650 jammer, a device that took a different approach by targeting a critical component of the receiver, operating at 3 MHz, the model was finally able to disrupt the missile's communication, regardless of which frequency the Germans selected. Unlike earlier systems, this jammer didn't require tedious manual tuning, allowing crews to act quickly under fire. The Allied countermeasures became even more sophisticated when they captured an intact HS-293 at Anzio, as well as a KEL transmitter from a downed Henschel He-177 on Corsica, finally providing critical insights. Armed with this powerful knowledge, the Allies developed the Type MAS jammer, a system that didn't just block signals, it hijacked them. Now, by transmitting a sequence of right-turn commands, the Allies could steer the missile harmlessly into the sea, stripping it of its once near-perfect precision and cleverly turning the Germans' own weapon against them. By the time the Allies prepared for the Normandy invasion and Operation Dragoon in the summer of 1944, these countermeasures reached a new level of effectiveness, significantly reducing the missile's success rate. The end of an era. The Henschel HS-293 left its mark across multiple theaters, striking a wide array of Allied vessels. Among its victims were the Italian destroyer Ugolino Vivaldi, the troop transport SS Elihu Yale, and Allied escorts like HMS Dulverton and HMS Spartan, lost in the same operation. Even hospital ships weren't spared, with HMHS Newfoundland severely damaged despite bearing Red Cross markings. Although originally designed for naval warfare, the HS-293 was repurposed for ground targets during the Normandy campaign. In early August 1944, Dornier Do 217 bombers from 3rd KG-100 launched missiles at bridges over the Zay and Zaloon rivers. Days later, on the 7th, the missiles targeted the Pontombeau Bridge in the first ever use of a standoff missile against land. Though one bridge sustained minor damage, no less than 6 aircraft were lost in the attempt. Months later, in a final act of desperation, the HS-293 was deployed on April 12, 1945, against bridges spanning the Oder River in a bid to stall the Soviet advance. From then on, the Luftwaffe's inability to protect its bombers and the growing sophistication of Allied defenses eventually made such missions too costly. Throughout its development, around 30 test variants of the HS-293 were created, featuring innovations like smaller wings, improved guidance systems, and proximity fuses, as well as experimental designs for jet aircraft like the Arado 234. Wire-guided versions, designated HS-293B, were developed to counter Allied jamming, though it's unclear if they saw combat. Other models, such as the HS-293C and its underwater striking successor, the HS-294, never progressed beyond testing. Estimates suggest thousands of test models and operational missiles were produced, but the HS-293A1 was the only version ever used in combat. In retrospect, the HS-293, while groundbreaking in its time, became another casualty of a rapidly evolving battlefield, the main cause being the dilution of development effort into too many unfinished variants, which hampered the refinement of the basic models. Nonetheless, with over 30 warships damaged or sunk, it was the world's most successful anti-ship missile until the introduction of the French Exocet more than 30 years later. A Dark Seas salute to Raycon for sailing with us today. Just as the HS-293 revolutionized naval warfare, Raycon's everyday earbuds are taking audio experience to new horizons. Visit buyraycon.com/darkseas for 20% off your everyday earbuds and begin your sonic adventure today.